that is offered by Southern California Gas Company. And then I'll touch a little bit about our income assistance programs, one of them being the Energy Savings Assistance Program, also known as ESA, our Middle Income Direct Install Program, which is our MIDI program, and then lastly I'll touch on our Whole Building Performance Program, which is our Energy Upgrade California Multifamily Program, also referred to as EUC Multifamily. So just quickly, some of the programs that we administer here through the utilities, some of the strategies that we kind of look at when we approach multifamily building is offering up some of our low-cost and no-cost effort, low-effort, no-cost type of direct install measures. And this is kind of our segue into, getting to have that conversation with the building owner, creating that relationship with the building owner, and then also being able to kind of talk about some of the other offerings that are available to that property. Some of the programs offer a little bit of a different variety of the no-cost measures through the multifamily rebate program. But here, as you can see, I have a list of some of those. We have a little bit more that are available, but I just wanted to give you a snapshot of some of those no-cost measures that are available, which are the LED lamps. We've got some reflector bulbs, and then as you can see there, specifically for Southern California Edison, they offer the variable speed pull drives at the no cost to the customer. And all of these energy saving products are available for both the dwelling unit as well as the common areas. In addition to that kind of direct install approach, we offer those to our multifamily apartment complexes. We do require that all of the multifamily buildings are fully constructed. New construction does not apply. For the rebate portion of our multifamily energy efficiency program, we also service the common areas of apartment complexes, senior living facilities, as well as common areas of the mobile home parks and HOAs as well. And so kind of what we look at when we're serving common area of those particular types of apartment complexes, we're looking at leasing offices, we're looking at the community centers, fitness centers, and walkways and garages and carports. So those all can take advantage of our direct install measures as well. And then for SoCal Gas, they particularly offer a direct install program where they're working with a particular contractor to offer the on-demand energy efficiency recirc for domestic hot water heaters. And these are also available at no cost to the customer. There's an audit involved with this as well. And then also there is the Energy Smart Multifamily Home Tune-Up Program, which is also administered through Southern California Gas Company only. I talked about hitting on briefly some of our income qualified programs. So we also offer for multifamily as well our Energy Saving Assistance Program. And this program is designed to assist those customers that meet the income level of just under 200% of the federal poverty line. And for this particular program, customers are required to show income documentation that they meet the level of income requirements that have been called out, and I'll show that in another slide. And then again, these are our direct install measures, so we offer things like power strips, lighting, low flow shower heads, faucet aerators, and then also in that is what we define as our home repairs. And then there's a little bit more offerings that are available, but again, this is just a snapshot of a high level overview of those things that are offered. For the income qualified program, if those households are receiving benefits from any of the following listed government subsidy programs here, then they are automatically qualified for our direct install programs. And so that would include things like your Medicaid, Medi-Cal, if they're receiving any type of food stamps or receiving any type of supplemental Social Security SSI, then they would also be able to qualify for our Energy Savings Assistance Program. Here is the household requirements and also the total yearly household broken down by each individual number of household people in the household. And this, the income guidelines change for this once a year. So as you'll note that this is good through next month of this year, and then those income guidelines will change and we'll receive that information the beginning of June to make those effective for our programs. The next program that we offer is the Middle Income Direct Install Program, and this program is designed to target those customers that are just above that 200% federal poverty line, so you're 201% to 300%. And again, these are also no cost to the customer, income qualified as well, and you can see that the measures there that are offered for the Energy Assisting Savings Program is also the same for the MIDI program, with the exception of it varies by utility with the home minor repairs, but again, the power strips, lighting, shower heads, and faucet aerators are the most common measures that are offered through the direct install program. And here is the income guideline that is for this program. Again, just a little bit above the 201% for these particular customers, and the income guidelines, as you can see, available through May, and then we'll be receiving communication on the changes to come for June of this year. So next we move into what we deem our prescriptive rebate, and so this is kind of our, with the intro lead into the direct install programs, the next offering is our prescriptive path, which sometimes can be a copay to the customer. So we have a set of measures, and these are calculated savings, and depending on IOU, we use contractors to kind of implement these programs, or they can be done self-install by the customer as well. And so for our rebate program, we have things like pool lightings. There's windows, landscaping lightings, furnaces, water controllers, tankless water heaters. And so again, with our contractors that go out and offer up these rebate programs, there is a clipboard assessment that's kind of done to kind of define what the needs of the property are, and then the conversation is had to see, what would best be suited for the property, and the rebates are then offered at that time. And there are rebates that are paid directly to the customers, and then sometimes there is a copay that may be required just depending on the type of energy efficiency product that they're interested in installing. And lastly, we'll move into our whole building approach. So this is our Energy Upgrade California Multifamily Rebate Program. And this is our performance-based program. And this is really looking at more of the comprehensive retrofits that properties are interested in. We have contractors and implementers that help to promote these programs. And this is also something that is very much so on the forefront of all of the utilities, and working through how we can best communicate that there are projects out there that are able to take advantage of some of the more deeper comprehensive rebates that are available. And so for Southern California Gas Company and Southern California Edison, here is a slide that kind of talks about what their program looks like. So their incentive levels are a little bit different. For this program, you have to have a minimum of 10% energy achieved savings in order to qualify for this program. There is an assessment that's done. There are energy modeling that is involved, and it's done on a tiered basis. So for their program, as you can see, it's per dwelling unit, and theirs start at $700, and achieving 35% or more energy savings goes all the way up to $1,600 per unit. For San Diego Gas and Electric, it's the same concept. It is, implemented, and your choice of a contractor. You can go and have any contractor do the work. Again, 10% energy model savings at $550 per unit, and then ours actually goes up to 40% energy savings, and they can get a $1,500 incentive per unit. And that was all I have. David?
Thank you so much, Aditi. And I did forget to mention at the outset of our webinar today that there's going to be a lot of information. There's going to be a lot of different contacts. We'll make sure and everyone gets a PDF version of this presentation, so you'll have this at your fingertips after we're done today. Don't feel like you have to get everything written down in a bad dash. So next I'd like to talk about the Energy Network and our multifamily program. Who is the Energy Network, you might be asking? I'm sure you're familiar with the utilities, but the Energy Network is a local government organization created by the California Public Utilities Commission a few years ago, and we're providing a range of resources in partnership with utilities, to businesses, to homeowners, to public agencies to really help drive energy efficiency throughout Southern California. So next slide. And I am, again, David Myers. I'm the regional manager here for the Energy Network. I'm your primary contact for all of our programs. I'll also provide some contact information for a couple of our other staff here. But at the end of the day, if you have any questions, if you need anything, I'm always happy to assist. And if I don't have the answer, I'll make sure to connect you to the right person. Next slide. So before we kind of dive into the program details, let's take a quick step back. And why energy efficiency? Next slide. Well, I mean, there's the cost of inefficiency. It's the obvious answer. If you conserve energy, you can reduce your electricity bills. You can improve your bottom line by decreasing operational costs. And it's not a trivial amount of money that can be going out every month, depending on the project, the size of common areas, size of what's going on in unit, individual meter versus single meter. Next slide. But it goes beyond just efficiency and the cost, that really kind of tangible cost of inefficiency. There are really other benefits that we all need to be thinking about. And one is customer demand. Energy efficiency, green, is becoming more and more of the market out here. You have the McGraw-Hill study from last year that expects that green buildings are going to make up about a third of the market. And why is that at the end of the day? It's because people are demanding them. They want to save money on their own bills. They want to have comfortable apartments that have good indoor air quality. And there is this kind of green, sustainable lifestyle that is gaining momentum in the marketplace. And all of that can translate into higher rents and lower tenant turnover. Next slide. And some forward-thinking companies are early adopters are starting to get on board. You have big companies like Avidal and Bay and Equity Residential that are making widespread renovations and really leveraging green to be a core part of their business model. And that's because every indication right now is this isn't going anywhere. This is the future, but it doesn't just have to be for big companies. It doesn't just have to be for big buildings. As you can see from Dee Dee's presentation earlier, my presentation now, there's all kinds of resources available. Every building can be energy efficient and green. So just quick in summary. Next, being energy efficient, it's going to bring increased returns, bring long-term savings. Next, make your buildings healthier and more comfortable. Next, and at the end of the day, that's going to make them more green, going to make for happier tenants, and at least in the near future, while green ramps up, this could be an important differentiator out. So all that being said, next slide, how can we help? How is the Energy Network going to help you take it to incorporate energy efficiency into your building? Next. So similar to what Dee Dee was saying at the end, we have a whole building program. So it's looking at helping property owners like yourself really get the deepest possible savings, not necessarily looking at a single thing you want to do, not just lighting, or not just replace a boiler, but what happens when we look at multiple measures together? What happens when we look at, say, windows, insulation, and that boiler to help you maximize your energy savings? And a great time to be thinking in this whole building way is at these kind of big events. So maybe it's an acquisition and you're starting to do it rehab. Maybe it's a property that's in need of some renovation, or you got this big central system change. That boiler is just older than a dog's age. So this is a great time to be thinking about cost-effective energy efficiency measures, and we're here to help you think through that, and we're here to help you provide some resources to make that feasible for you. Next slide. So I've already mentioned, and as Dee Dee mentioned earlier, this program is very flexible. It takes that whole building approach. So we allow for a really wide range of possible energy efficiency improvements, and we can work with you to figure out what those are best for you. But these are just a sampling of what's available out there. Some of our most popular measures that we see, again, it could be a central system like a boiler, it could be in-unit, and we love in-unit things as well, like appliances. It could be out in the common areas like lighting. And again, how can we do all those things together to help you maximize your energy savings? Next slide. So we do a couple different things. We provide technical assistance, and that can take, again, we're all about flexibility, and that can take a lot of different forms. We're happy to sit down with you, look through your portfolio, help you look at, talk through your capital improvement budget, and maybe help you identify projects that would be good to incorporate energy efficiency. We can come out to a property and just do a walkthrough, kind of give you the idea of what you might expect from a specific property. You know, again, we're here to help you and help educate you on the possibility, and then there's incentives to help offset some of the costs of the energy efficiency measures. Next slide. So before we go any farther into the actual program process, just a brief note on program eligibility. Again, trying to be as flexible as possible. So as long as the property gets service from Southern California Edison and Southern California Gas, we're happy to have you participate. We define a multifamily building as being of at least 3 units. So that could be a single high-rise, could be a campus of multiple buildings. Again, we're happy to work with you. We require a minimum 3 eligible energy efficiency improvements, and that's to, again, take that whole building approach. Similar to the programs Dee Dee described earlier, we require a minimum energy improvement of 10%. But we found that's it's a little bit of a stretch, but it's definitely achievable for most buildings. And then we require that you work with a participating rater. That participating rater is an expert in energy efficiency. They're an expert consultant. They'll not only help advise you on how to achieve your goals within your project-specific budget, but they'll also be able to take care of, you know, almost all of the paperwork required for the program. So they're really a great resource that we help you access. Next slide. This is a brief overview of the participation process. We provide that technical assistance for you, as I mentioned earlier, help you identify, hey, is this project right for this program? And if it's not right for this program, that's fine. That happens. We're more than happy to connect you with the other programs that are happening that Dee Dee talked about. At the end of the day, what really just makes us most happy is if you're incorporating energy efficiency into your project. But if we are the right program for you, we'll help take you through enrollment. There's some forms you have to fill out, an agreement, make sure we all understand the requirements of the program. Once you are enrolled, you work with your participating rater to do a full audit of your project. That allows the participating rater to really understand the condition that your building's in, do some testing, do some energy modeling. They'll present you with a variety of options that you might want to consider, and then from those options, as long as you're meeting our minimum requirements in terms of energy savings, in terms of eligible measures, again, pick what's right for you, your project, and your budget, and we provide an incentive to help offset the cost of working with that participating rater. Once the audit is complete, go to construction. Again, as I mentioned earlier, these are usually, the energy efficiency measures are often might be part of a larger scope of work. You can use any contractor that you like. We understand that you will often have long-standing relationships, HVAC, plumbing, whatever. Great. Use those contractors. We want you to be comfortable with your folks. At the end of construction, the participating rater will come back. They'll verify that, hey, all the energy efficiency measures that you said you were going to install, you installed, everything's done correctly, just us doing our due diligence, and then based on kind of that final scope of work that's installed, we'll provide you with an improvement incentive to offset some of the costs of those energy efficiency improvements. But what do those incentives look like? Next slide. So here's the assessment incentive. It's based on the size of the building, and this assessment incentive, depending on the complexity of the project, it can cover anywhere between 50 to 75% of the participating raters' costs. So for projects 3 to 49 units, you see 5,000, 50 to 100, 10,000, and then an incremental increase over the 100 units. So if it's 101 units, it could be up to $10,020. And to clarify, that's up to. Sometimes, raters' costs can be less than that. Obviously, the incentive cannot exceed the cost of the participating raters' work. And then what about the improvement incentive? Next slide. The improvement incentive, just like the program CD spoke about earlier, it's a tiered structure. We do this for two reasons. One, we want to ultimately reward people for doing deeper scopes of work at the end of the day, but we also, want to reward people for going farther than they've ever been before. So we have that achievable first tier at 10%, where you would get $550 per unit for your energy efficiency improvements. And then that goes all the way up for people who go really deep, greater than 30% savings, and they can get up to $1,200 per unit. Next slide. So here's just one case study for one project that we have just about finishing up now in the program. Big project out in Santa Ana, built in 1968, which means it was built before there was an actual energy code. And they're doing, big scope of work, central systems, insulation, lighting, shell measures with the windows. They're doing a little bit of everything, but they're estimating almost a 20% improvement, translating into $76,000 estimated annual savings. Their assessment incentives cover almost all the cost of the participating rater that helped them through the program, and the improvement incentive covering about a fourth of the costs. Combine that with the annual savings, you have a really nice payback. It's really going to provide a long-term benefit. And this is one example, but this program has a range of projects. We have the smallest project enrolled is 7 units, getting about 10%. The largest is about 400 units, pushing 30%. And frankly, we have everything in between. So again, if you're looking to take energy efficiency and really do deep savings, this program or the whole building programs that Dee Dee referenced earlier could really be a great resource for you. Next slide. So next steps, if you're interested in getting involved, you can visit us at theenergynetwork.com. Your primary contact is one of my colleagues, Jonathan Austin. He can be reached at jaustin@builditgreen.org, and I'll make sure that my contact information is included in the follow-up email with the slide deck. But now, that was a lot of information. I want to make sure that we have plenty of time. What we like to say at the Energy Network is after you reduce, now it's time to go produce. So let's turn it over to Sarah Smith to talk about solar hot water and heating for multifamily properties.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, David. As you said, I'm going to now talk about when you can go beyond energy efficiency when you've done those measures. Solar water heating is a great option to think about for multifamily properties. So I'm going to talk a little bit about solar water heating and available incentives. So my name is Sarah Smith. I am a program manager at the Center for Sustainable Energy. We're the third-party program administrator for that rebate program in San Diego Gas and Electric Service Territory. So I'm gonna cover the basics of solar water heating, how it works, the benefits, potential end uses, the available incentives, and then look at a couple of case studies to give you an idea of what a system or what a project would look like in real terms. So what is solar water heating? Solar water heating captures heat energy from the sun to reduce energy used for water heating or other thermal loads. So this is different than photovoltaics, which takes light from the sun and converts it to electricity. For these systems, we're just using that heat energy from the sun. So that can be used for domestic hot water heating. So that would be a primary use potentially for multifamily. So anywhere that you would need hot water for laundries, bathing, etc. Another great option is solar water heating systems for pool and spa heating. And then solar thermal solar water heating is available or can be used to assist with space heating and cooling as well. So a little bit more details on it. Solar water heating, it works with any type of backup water heater or boiler. So if you heat with natural gas, electricity, or propane, the solar water heating system is a preheat system, so it just works in conjunction with your existing, with whatever the existing heater is. There's no need to replace the existing water heater or boiler in order to install solar water heating, unless it's unless it's time to replace that anyway. And the reason for that is that it works in conjunction with that existing system. For multifamily properties, it's most effective with a central boiler or a central water heater system, just because if you think about each individual unit, it just makes it a bit more complicated. Can certainly be done, but if all that water is getting heated in one central area, then solar water heating can be a really great option. And solar water heating can be used in any climate, just making sure that there's proper freeze and overheat protection for those systems. So the benefits, there's financial and environmental benefits. So a solar water heating system over the course of a year can save up to 80% of the property's water heating costs. So it can offset up to 80%. It's going to help the property conserve energy, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and can help provide green appeal if you if there are customers out there that are looking for a more sustainable green place to live. So this is a very simplified version of how a solar water heating system works. So you have the collector up on the roof. So you have however many solar collectors you would need. And then in this type of system, there are different types of systems, but this is a very common type of system where a heat transfer fluid is flowing through the pipes in the collector and then goes through and heats up. As it heats up, it gets pumped down through a heat exchanger in your solar storage tank. So you would need solar water heating systems work with another storage tank, so you have a place for that solar heated water. And then it continues to flow through the system until it either gets too hot or too cold or the sun's not shining anymore, and then that flow would stop. But that tank is well insulated, will keep a lot of that hot water in. And that hot water will be drawn into the existing water heater or boiler as it's needed for different end uses, which can be for direct uses of water. The domestic hot water could be used for the pool, could be used for space heating or cooling. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the incentives that are available. There is the California Solar Initiative Thermal Program, which has rebates available, cash rebates, and those rebates were recently increased. So that's this is a really great time to be thinking about installing a solar water heating system. There's also a 30% federal tax credit, which is applicable for solar water heating systems, for domestic hot water, for other space heating or space cooling process heat, but is not applicable for solar pool systems. And then there is the option potentially of accelerated depreciation, so that's something that you would want to look into if you're looking at the possibility of installing a solar water heating system. So a little bit more detail about the CSI thermal program. So it's for customers of California's large investor-owned utilities, so Pacific Gas and Electric, Southern California Gas, and San Diego Gas and Electric service territories. The rebates the rebates are available for offsetting natural gas water heating. So as I mentioned before, solar water heating can work with any sort of backup, but at this point in time, there are only rebates available for natural gas displacing systems, which most sites in California do use natural gas, so it shouldn't be too big of an issue. And customers have to work with an eligible contractor in order to get the rebate. The contractor has to have one of 5 different licenses with the California State License Board, the Contractor State License Board, and must attend a one-day workshop with one of the program administrators where we go over the requirements of the program and the application process for rebates. And eligible contractors, a list of eligible contractors can be found at csithermal.com, which is a program website, and that website is, I believe, on the last slide, so that will be available as well. So what are the multifamily rebates? So at this point in time, so we are still at step 1. It's a step-down program, so there is a budget for each customer class and service territory at each step. And as more systems are installed, and that budget gets reserved, then we would move down to the subsequent step, which is at a lower incentive rate. So we are currently at step 1 for all customer classes and service territories. So for multifamily, the current rebate, which has been increased recently, is $20.19 per therm displaced for a year, with a maximum incentive of $800,000. So that, as I mentioned, that rebate has been increased. It's been increased by almost 40% for multifamily and commercial properties. So here's a project profile for a 10-unit multifamily building. So the site has 6 evacuated tube collectors, which you can see here. There are a couple different types of collectors. This is one type. So if this system were to be installed today, receive a rebate today, this is the situation that they would see. So the system costs were about $35,000. The rebate, as it is today, would be almost $20,000. Then they would be able to take that 30% federal tax credit of almost $4,600. And then so the total out-of-pocket cost would be about $10,000, almost $11,000. And they've seen a annual energy savings of about $2,400 a year. So they're saving a significant amount of money each year by putting in solar water heating. And then just to look at a larger site. So this site has 116 units that are being served by 3 different solar water heating systems. So there's 72 flat plate collectors, so those are different types of collectors than the other. Their system cost was about $200,000. At the current rebate rate, they would get almost $125,000 for a rebate and be able to get that 30% federal tax credit for an out-of-pocket cost at the end of about $57,000. And they're saving around $7,000 a year in water heating costs, so that's coming off their bill each year. And then just lastly, here's contact information resources for Southern California. So as I mentioned, we here at the Center for Sustainable Energy are the program administrator. We're a third party in SDG&E service territory. And then Southern California Gas, they manage the CSI Thermal program directly. So here's contact information for both service territories and that website that I mentioned previously, csithermal.com. So that's all for me. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Sarah. So I'm sure that was a a lot of information, a lot of great programs. I'm sure we have some questions. My assistant, Don Knapp, is going to help me answer those today. Don, do we have some questions from and remember, if you have questions, please type them into the chat box in your control panel. Don, do we have some questions from the audience this afternoon?
I do not have any questions yet, but monitoring the chat window, so if you have a question, please type it in and I'll relay it to David.
And again, this presentation is going to be distributed to all the attendees, so if you need time to think about it, or you'll have our contact information so you can follow up about each of the individual programs, and we're here to help you at any time. So if we have no questions, I guess I think we'll go ahead and let everyone go for the moment.
David, I do have a question coming in. Question is, how much does the energy rater typically cost for the energy network, as in the energy network program?
That's a good question. So it can be difficult at times to estimate. It depends on the size of the project and its complexity. So there's some variables there, but I can tell you that the incentive, the assessment incentive we provide, is designed to cover somewhere between 50 and 100%. Again, there are some variables we can't control, but we want to do everything we can to kind of mitigate those upfront costs you might encounter by hiring a participating rater. And even before you get to the rater and going down that, quite getting that far in the program, that's also why we provide the technical assistance, so we can do that kind of initial walkthrough for free to give you an idea of your property's condition, some measures you might want to consider, and give you a ballpark in terms of the scope of work you might want to consider and kind of what that might mean for your long-term savings. So we can provide some free services up front, and then the assessment incentive helps cover anywhere between 50 to 100% of that participating rater's cost, again, depending on the project.
David, next question we have is, what are the incentives for pool heating? Maybe that's a review, someone wants a review of what we covered earlier in the presentation.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's for solar water heating systems. I'm sorry, I should have included that as well. Currently, the rebates are $5 per therm displaced, with a maximum rebate of $500,000. And then there's also a rebate cap of 50% of the total system cost. But it's $5 per therm displaced.
Thank you. And next question, do you need ASHRAE level 2, I assume that's the energy audit they're referencing, do you need ASHRAE level 2 per building?
For the energy network, and I'll ask Dee to maybe jump in here for the whole building under San Diego Gas and Electric and SoCal Edison and SoCal Gas. But for the energy network program, we require an ASHRAE level 2 audit for the project, but there's sampling protocols that are involved there, so it's not necessarily every single unit. So there's ways that we need that level of detail, but we kind of mitigate some of the effort. Did you want to, Dee, is there anything you want to say about the whole buildings for the utilities?
I'm muted. Oh, this is ridiculous.
You're live, Dee.
So we can follow up with that. If you want to email us directly, we can make sure we get you all the audit requirements for each of the programs.
Okay, next question, David. This is about solar thermal. What happens when the water heated from solar thermal gets to maximum temperature? A question for Sarah.
They had me muted.
If the question is in terms of what happens with the system, if in the type of system that I showed, which is a pump system, it has controlled sensors. If there's no more need for hot water, then the system will shut down and it won't continue to pump. If the question is in terms of safety and scald protection and how hot the water gets, the water can get quite hot in solar water heating systems, but it's acting as a preheat to the existing water heater, which should already have scald protection installed. And if it doesn't, then it should, but that would be basically on the other side of the existing water heater, and that solar water heating system shouldn't affect that. If that wasn't quite the question, if you could just clarify, if I didn't quite answer the question, if you could just clarify, please let me know.
Thanks, Sarah. Maybe we'll come back to that. We have another question. Do raters charge additional for the construction phase of a project, meaning the phase after the assessment is complete? If so, around what cost is that, and are there incentives for that as well?
The incentives are designed to cover the audit costs, and that's the initial cost of working with the rater, and that's the preponderance of the cost you'll expect. Ultimately, it varies so much, and again, there's so many variables it's difficult for me to answer that question directly. What could be helpful is if you contact me and we can provide some technical assistance to your project. Ultimately, the costs charged to you by the rater is negotiated between you and the participating rater. Sorry, I can't give you anything more specific, but again, why don't you contact me about your project, and we can see if we can get a little home in a little bit for you.
Okay, one more comment about solar water heating. I've heard sometimes that water needs to be dumped from the system. Is that true? So if it gets to, yeah, I'll pause there. Sarah?
Not that I am aware of. The types of systems that are eligible to receive a rebate in the CSI thermal program don't have that. I think there might, yes.
Let me clarify the caller retyped their question. I've heard that sometimes water needs to be dumped from the system if it gets too hot and isn't needed. They're just concerned about wasting water.
Great concern. From everything that I know about different types of solar water heating systems and the ones that we incentivize, give rebates for through the program, that's not the case for any of those types of systems. There's no reason to think in these types of systems that you would be wasting any water.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Are there audit requirements for the San Diego Gas and Electric multifamily whole building incentive programs? How much do they cost? Are there audit requirements for San Diego Gas and Electric multifamily whole building incentive programs, and how much do they cost?
Yes, this is San Diego. Sorry, I was muted on the last question, so I kind of apologize for the rater question. But for San Diego's whole building performance program, it's very similar to what David was explaining. There is an ASHRAE Level 2 audit that needs to occur. And so that is something that, again, is kind of worked out between the rater and the property owner. So typically those costs, I mean, like David said, they range from, you know, $300 to $500 potentially, but it's hard to say. It depends on the number of buildings that are included with the project and also the number of units that are in the property. So it really does vary. But yes, there is an audit that is required, and that is the ASHRAE Level 2 audit.
Okay, thank you, Dee Dee. Next question. Does each 3-unit building get its own incentive if there are, for example, 23-unit buildings in a project?
I'll speak for the energy network. We treat it as, it's about being an entire project. So we would look at the entire property or campus and treat it as one entire project. So it would be one improvement incentive for the project, which could include, as I said, one high-rise building, or that project could include multiple smaller buildings. And we see, we see the whole gamut of different building configurations in our program.
Okay, thank you. Next question. When comparing pool heating to domestic water heating, what has a better ROI given the existing incentive levels available today? And if you want me to repeat the question, I can.
Do you guys have information on that, Dee Dee or Sarah?
That's it's a little bit of a difficult question because projects vary so much, and I don't have those numbers like on average right in front of me. But if you shoot me an email, I can kind of look at the data and give you an answer on average of what we're seeing in the program.
Yeah, same for San Diego. Our projects vary so much in size that it's hard to kind of pinpoint that down. So again, if you're interested in specifics or any type of data that I can provide for you, I'm more than happy to address those. If you just send me a question, I'll respond to you.
Okay, so last call for any further questions, and that you could submit through the chat window. If not, we can wrap up our presentation today.
Well, again, I'd like to thank you all for joining us. I hope this was informative. As I said at the outset, there's really a fantastic range of programs available. We'll get this presentation out to you, if not by the end of day today, early tomorrow, so you can contact, if you don't have their information written down already, you can contact Dee Dee about all the great programs from the utilities. You can contact Sarah about solar thermal, and we're always happy to help you here as well at the Energy Network. But at the end of the day, we just want you to start thinking energy efficiency because it has a lot of opportunity. So again, thank you all for joining us, and I hope to hear from you soon. Have a great rest of your day.